Fighting monsters in Dungeons & Dragons is a common occurrence, but sometimes combat can feel flat, boring, and downright easy for adventurers. And that might be because you're running the monsters less like living creatures and more like basic obstacles to overcome. Let's take a look at how to give your monsters a little bit more agency during combat. Have you ever run a game where your players are noticeably getting battle fatigue? Wave after wave of monster fall, and you can tell that the general mood indicates your players just want to move on. Often the problem is that the fight is predictable and not stimulating enough. This happens most frequently when a DM treats monsters like video game RPG enemies. In most video games, the monsters charge in blindly to their death, they fight to the last breath, and often have nothing to gain by fighting the players at all. While these lack of tactics can work in certain places in D&D, it usually leads to stale combat encounters pretty quickly. Boring combat can be avoided with a little planning, but it's most important that you're actually able to notice when combat becomes stale. The first step in overcoming the problem is to identify it. The next time you run combat, try to imagine things from the player's perspective and ask yourself if the encounter is actually fun. If the answer is no, then apply some of the following tips to buff up the encounter to make it more engaging for everyone. First, try to shake up your gameplay loop. When fighting monsters in Dungeons & Dragons, your players follow a pretty standard formula. They roll initiative and then begin combat. Rounds typically repeat until everything is dead, and then the players move on, but they can be missing some of the spirit of fighting monsters. To improve this gameplay loop, start by considering the monsters as living creatures with their own goals. Most less intelligent creatures still have instincts and don't blindly run to meet their death. When your group encounters hostile monsters, first ask why they're hostile. Animals in real life attack people to defend their territory, protect their young, or for food. It should be the same in your game. Identifying the reason the monsters are fighting can frame combat in a completely different way and show your players alternative ways to end the encounter. The motivations monsters have also determine how they fight. If a monster is protecting its young, it won't stray far from them and will position itself between the party and its offspring. If a monster is defending its territory, it won't give chase outside of a certain range. If the monster is trying to eat the players, it's only willing to take so many risks for its meal before it gives up. Each of these motivations changes how the creatures behave and makes combat more interesting. It's more than just a fight against the monsters now. It's a scenario that has a reason and meaning. It's easy to forget that monsters want to live. This is a rule that all beast-type creatures should follow. No matter what their motives are, they are trying to survive. They won't rush headlong to their deaths, and they'll often back off from a fight if wounded. These creatures could also obey natural selection in your fantasy world, meaning that they will instinctively take the best chances for survival. This means that even creatures that are considered unintelligent can use tactics. They don't know their tactics, but they know that when fighting, they can follow a certain set of rules that will help them survive. If there's an option that will give a creature advantage on a roll, it will seek it out. If there's a scenario the monster could encounter that will put it at a disadvantage, it will actively avoid that or attempt to run away. If you run your monsters with this mindset, your campaigns can feel much more alive and encounters can become a lot more engaging for your players. Remember that monsters, just like your players, have the option to flee at any time. This is a mechanic that most new DMs have trouble with, and the Dungeon Master's Guide doesn't cover much. Monsters will run from combat if they're in a bad spot. Even wild beasts know when they're outmatched. It's part of nature to sum up potential threats and act accordingly. When a creature is unsure of a player's strength, they might test them. But once the player responds in a way that might scare the creature or threaten it, the creature will act appropriately. Don't be afraid to end combat with monsters running away. A monster fleeing the scene can save your players an hour of combat that would have been largely unnecessary and boring to boot. If you treat creatures like they're alive, you'll start to see options for roleplay opening up to you. It's worth noting that monsters who flee combat can also be considered defeated for the purposes of awarding XP. A lot of players who have preconceived notions from video games about how to get XP might be upset if monsters run away. As a DM, you'll need to let them know that they can still get XP from monsters they don't murder. Now that we've got you thinking more about your monsters like living, breathing beasts, go and apply these ideas to your game. Look carefully at your encounters and have the monsters prioritize their survival. Look at monster objectives and remember that wild animals aren't necessarily prideful. They have no qualms about fleeing a fight and are all about living to see another day. Just thinking about your monsters more carefully will help you improve your combat dramatically. Remember that instincts often replace intelligence, and creatures aren't going to act recklessly. If you're interested in more ideas, take a look at our other videos. You can find more resources at masterthedungeon.com. The best way to support us is to like and subscribe and share our videos with everyone. Happy DMing!